Welcome everybody to this new episode of my little conversation series. My guest today is space music pioneer and composer Michael Stearns. And well, hello Michael, nice to see you.
Hi Michael, two Michaels.
Two Michaels. How are you doing?
I'm doing really well this morning.
How wonderful. Well, I still vividly remember the first time when I was listening to an album by you, and I was introduced to it by an American friend who happens to be called Mike, actually.
Oh, another Mike.
Another Mike, and we were we had a chat about all kinds of music, and at some point he remarked that he was trying to get an album by Klaus Schulze that was new at the time, but he couldn't find it in the US, and asked me if I could arrange it, purchase it for him, and send it over. And I happened to have a copy anyway, so I offered him to send him my copy. He said, "Okay, so that's very kind of you. So I have some extra copies of great albums here. Maybe I can send you some in return." And I said, "Okay, what do you have?" And he said, which albums do you know by Michael Stearns?" And I said, "Well, actually, none of them at the time. I know who he is. I have heard some music occasionally, but I don't have any albums yet." And he said, "Yeah, cool. I have 8 copies. I don't know why so much of Planetary Unfolding. Would you like one?" And I said, "Yeah, sure. Wonderful." And a few weeks later, I came home from work. It arrived, and it was actually this. I should put it here.
Oh,
this edition.
Sonic Atmospheres edition. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And so I remember it was very interesting to look at. It was a different cover than the one I knew from the internet, and I think I needed another 2 or 3 days to have some spare time to dedicate to listening to it. And I remember the moment when I clicked play and looked at my bookshelf, actually, where the hi-fi equipment was placed, and I thought, wow, I really stood there and couldn't, I was paralyzed. I was so fascinated because it wasn't actually what I had expected. For whatever reason, it was so immediately touching me on such a deep level that it really took me by surprise. And also the color of the sounds. I think previously maybe I heard some of your 80s or 90s work, which probably sounded more digital, like this one. And I just thought, I had such a moment of why didn't I ever listen to this music before? It was. I had remembered it was during COVID, but actually it had been 2 years earlier. It was in 2017. But I had been listening to electronic music all my life, starting in my case in 1983 or 84, and so it was relatively late in my late discovery, so to speak. Given that your music has been around all the time. And
I think I released my first album in 1978.
78.
And
was it Ancient Leaves?
Ancient Leaves, yeah. And of course, you're right, those were, the later ones that you heard were all recorded digitally, probably using Pro Tools.
Yeah.
And Planetary Unfolding was analog. And it was recorded, a lot of it was recorded at the Continuum studio, where I was a composer and not really a performer, but I would play, 3-hour-long live backgrounds for movement meditation and that sort of thing. And Continuum really gave me the space. I moved to Los Angeles from Tucson in 1975. And I was at Continuum through 1981. And I started the root recordings for Planetary Unfolding probably in about 1979. After I'd been at Continuum playing for everyone for a couple of years, I had known Kevin Braheny. He'd become a friend.
Yeah.
And we got Kevin to come in and also play for the classes.
Yeah.
And Kevin, of course, brought his amazing Mighty Serge synthesizer.
Yeah.
And Kevin really taught me a lot about modular synthesis. It was wonderful having him as a teacher and having access to his synthesizer as well, the Mighty Serge.
Yeah.
And I got to go, at that point, they were being made in this little upstairs loft, I think in Hollywood or it wasn't West Hollywood, I think it was really Hollywood. And so I got to go and to the actual, I wouldn't call it a factory, it was kind of like a big room where they were actually making the synthesizers. And then and I had started working with a fellow by the name of Craig Hundley, who became Craig Huxley. After I had recorded Ancient Leaves, he had asked me to come work with him at his studio, the Enterprise. And I introduced Craig to Kevin.
Yeah.
And Kevin ended up building Craig this very nice Serge system with a anvil roll around case, and it was just fantastic.
Yeah.
And then Craig decided he wanted an even bigger Serge.
Okay.
So Kevin built him a huge Serge. And at that point, Craig said, well, do you want to buy my old Serge? It was only like a year old.
Yeah, yeah.
And so I bought Craig's Serge, and then I had my own. And at about that time, I started working on Planetary Unfolding.
I see.
And some of the original, like the basic tracks, came from actual performances that I did at the Continuum studio. And that I would record, and I would record them on an old Titanc 3340 quarter-inch 4-track machine.
Yeah. Wow.
And then technology amped up again, and I was able to get a Titanc, I think it was called an 80-8, which was a half-inch 8-track recorder.
Yeah.
And shortly after that time, Continuum went through a metamorphosis, and everything changed, and we left that building that it had been in for a number of years, probably 6 years. And so I had a whole summer off, and I went down to my wife's father's house down in Encinitas, California, North San Diego County, and set up a studio in a bedroom with my new Serge and my 80-8 recorder. And then I put all of Planetary Unfolding together in that bedroom and recorded new tracks to it, and, composed it as an album.
Yeah.
And then the Craig at the Enterprise was going on vacation with his wife for several weeks, and he said, hey, do you want to come up and just use the studio for anything you want to use it for?
Yeah, cool.
And so I took my 80-8 recorder and went up to Sherman Oaks, where his studio was. And I had been engineering at the studio and recording with him, doing film projects at the studio. So it was working with a big AMEC 2500 mixing console, huge console, wall-to-wall, with my little 8-track tape recorder.
Okay.
So that's where I
Yeah.
mixed Planetary Unfolding,
Yeah.
and it was wonderful to have that as a studio to be able to mix in,
Yeah.
because I didn't really have my studio was basically a little Tiac Model 5. I don't know if you remember those, little tiny 8-channel mixing console. So I couldn't really
I
do...
have an idea. I never
Yeah.
used that. I'm too young to use any of them myself.
Well, it was, so
Yeah.
up until that point, Planetary Unfolding was all analog, and I recorded it. The actual master tape was originally recorded to quarter-inch tape on an Ampex ATR something or other, really nice Ampex 2-track recorder. And that's the master, and when you listen to Planetary Unfolding today, you're still hearing like a digital copy of that master.
I see. Yeah. It sounds, the soundscape, so to speak, sound very like complex and many layers of them. So I wonder, when you did a performance with the Serge, like in the meditation workshop, was that just one layer of sound and you layered the rest later on in the studio on top of that, or is the Serge already multi-temporal and
oh yeah, the
very
Serge is
complex?
the Serge is a modular synthesizer, so you could actually create 2 or 3 or 4 little mini synthesizers within the Serge itself.
Yeah.
And it, as you can with modular synthesizers. And so I could record off like one little patch that I had created, and then I could record off another part of the patch that I created. And these were all things that I was playing simultaneously in the class. And also I was using it outside of the class. When I had my own, I was doing performances up in Northern California at Asilomar on the Monterey Peninsula. I was up there performing, and when George Landry, who is this amazing artist that I worked with for many years at Continuum, he created a giant harp called Lyra. And have you ever heard the Lyra album?
I'm not sure. By you or by him?
By me. George is an artist, and he built this huge harp, which I helped him design the tuning mechanisms for, and the playback system for. It had strings that were, some of them were 30 feet long, 156 strings in this huge art gallery.
Yeah.
And it was open to the public on weekdays, so people would come in and they could play it, and people brought their instruments in to play it. I mean, remember one day a cello player came in, he was playing his cello along with it.
Wonderful.
But I did a series of performances with Lyra, and I performed with the Serge, basically just Lyra and the Serge. Those were recorded, and that's another album of mine called Lyra. It came out in 1983.
Is it on
just
Bandcamp?
Before it's on Bandcamp, yeah. You can get it on Bandcamp.
I need to listen to that. Yeah. I think I had a listen at most of your albums on Bandcamp, but I'm not sure if I listened to that one. Don't know why, but it's I read about the big harp at some point. So
George was amazing. He was a big guy. He built these huge art installations.
Yeah.
So I was really lucky. He was a dear friend too, to be able to participate with him in his projects. He did another one called Landlight, where he went to Arkansas, where they have these big crystal mines. They dig in the earth and they find these huge crystals. I mean, some of these crystals are this big around. They're gigantic.
Yeah.
And he brought back to Los Angeles a dump truck of these crystals, huge truck of crystals.
Yeah.
And he cleaned them up and created an art installation in the same gallery called Landlight. And it was an incredible installation, because you walk in the dark, you go down this corridor, and there was this it was a circle with an opening on one end of quartz crystals, maybe 3 feet high, all around, and you could go in the middle.
Yeah.
And he had made these lighting fixtures underneath the crystals, so light would shine up underneath the crystal and then create these like rainbows or crystal bows or whatever you would call them all around the room.
Yeah.
And then I had hid speakers underneath the crystals, and I wrote a score so that as you walked in, this music and light was coming from underneath the crystals. Yeah. And people would go into that installation. They didn't want to move. They didn't want to leave. They just sit in there for an hour. Yeah.
Wonderful. Yeah.
So that's the kind of thing that George did. It was really incredible.
Yeah. I've read a little bit about the search system today. Wanted to remind me how it works and how the history was, and I had this. I wondered. I think I read at some point that when you started to do the music for the meditation classes, you started to do that with Moog synthesizers rather. Yeah. And I wondered if it was, how was the transition from the Moogs to the Search, and I wondered if the architecture of the Search or the possibilities that it had, how that did that have a big impact on the music you actually made because you had the possibilities. Or did you rather have the ideas and inspiration beforehand and then use the Search to make it happen?
Well, when I came to Continuum, I was living in Tucson, Arizona, and the woman who created Continuum, his name was Emily Conrad.
Yeah.
She came to Tucson. I had heard there was going to be a workshop. And it's a little bit of a story. I had been in the military for several years during the Vietnam event, and I had, while I was in the military, I had become a Haitian Creole linguist, the language they speak in Haiti. And so I was fluent in speaking Haitian Creole, and I heard that this woman was coming who had lived in Haiti for many years. And she taught this movement meditation process. Yeah. So I decided, well, I've got to take this workshop. How many, you're living in Tucson, Arizona, what opportunities do you have to meet someone else who speaks Haitian?
Okay, so it was rather of because of the language and not so much because of the meditation.
And I also had a kind of a bent towards spirituality. I had my whole life.
Yeah, I see.
So I took the workshop, and Emily was there teaching this, and she brought along Gary David, who would later become her husband, and George Landry, the artist I was just telling you about. Yeah. It was the three of them in Tucson, and I took the workshop, and Gary was playing. He was creating the musical background for the meditations, and he was using a mini Moog, and then he had a tape recorder, just a reel-to-reel quarter-inch tape recorder that he had prepared different backgrounds so that he could play the mini Moog on top of the tape recordings, these prepared tapes. Yeah. And so one of the meditations, he was playing the mini Moog and this background on the tape, and the background sounded really familiar to me. It was like, where do I know that sound from? Okay. And then I realized that the sound was from an old album by a fellow by the name of Ken Nordine from 1958. He had recorded this album in 1958. Okay. And the track on the album was called The Sound Museum. And what Ken would do is he would have an jazz group playing in the background, and he would take you on these kind of inner adventures where you close your eyes, and he would take you somewhere with his words, and the jazz was kind of the background. So this one cut on this album was called The Sound Museum, and he started out in a hall, and he had like what we call Foley in the film industry. It's like he's had footsteps. So we were walking down the hall, and you hear the footsteps echoing on the sides of the wall. And on each side of you were doors. And behind each door was a kind of a music. And each door was different. And as he would get to a door, he would tell you a little bit about the composer who had written the music behind the door. And then he would open the door, and for about 20 or 30 seconds, you could hear this music. And then he would close the door, and you'd walk a little farther down the hall, and then he would tell you about music behind another door, and then he would open it. Well, behind one of these doors was this music that just made me feel incredible. It was like the music that I've created ever since. It was amazing. And so when I was in the meditation, I realized that what Gary had done is he took the music behind that door and he made a loop out of it. So it just kept going continuously. And he played the mini-moog on top of that loop. So at the end of the meditation, I just got up and I walked up to him and I got right in his face and I said, "Hey, I know that music you used as a background. That's from a Ken Nordine 1958 album called Word Jazz. And you're playing it backwards." And he'd taken it and he was making the music play backwards on the tape recorder. And he looked at me and he said, "Oh my gosh, you're the only other person in the world that would know that. You've got to move to Los Angeles and come to our studio." So 2 weeks later, I sold everything in Tucson. I got in my Volkswagen bus and I drove to LA. And I was there for 17 years. So anyway, the Moog, we were getting back to what you were talking about, the Moog. So when I got to Continuum, I had the Mini Moog available to play with because that was Craig Hundley, who I talked about a moment ago. He had a bunch of interesting instruments. He had the Mini Moog. He had this beautiful Yamaha organ and a number of other things, and they were all at Continuum, so I had access to them. So I used the Mini Moog to create my first album, which was Ancient Leaves. I mean, it's almost entirely Mini Moog, and there's a stringed instrument called a kantala from Finland, which is a lap harp. And it has a very repetitive pattern that goes on and on through the whole album, and that I recorded that live.
I really loved that album too.
You did great.
I mean, I discovered it a little bit later when I after hearing this one, I wanted to hear more, and it was just around the time when you re-released it on Bandcamp. And I'm loving all the early albums. I mean, I do love the later albums too, but
Ancient Leaves was the first one, and it's an interesting story behind that. I guess I'm getting into stories here a little bit, but so this is a quick story. I didn't have any money. I mean, it was I just didn't, I was just starting kind of, I guess you could call it a career in the music that I create, and I created Ancient Leaves, but I didn't have the money to, at that time, it was all on this 1/4-inch 4-track TAC 3340. But I had all the parts on the 3340, but I had to put them together to make Ancient Leaves. And I didn't have the money to do that. So my wife Susan had a friend who had a little more money, and we asked him if he would give us a loan to turn Ancient Leaves into an album, and he did. And then he had to go on a trip somewhere. He was gone for 3 or 4 months. So he gave us the money to do it as a loan, because we had to pay him back. And that gave me the money. I went into a little studio in Hollywood called Track Record, and Track Record had one of these Tascam 80-8 recorders, which I was able to get myself a year or two later. But I went in there and we took the 3340 recordings, 1/4-inch recordings, and we slowly transferred those onto the 1/2-inch machine, and actually were able to sequence Ancient Leaves and put it together as a whole piece of music.
Yeah.
And then we recorded that down to mixed it off down to a 2-track machine. Well, several months later, this fella who had loaned us the money got back from his trip. And by that point, we had Ancient Leaves was available as a cassette, it was available as an LP, and it was available in, there was a New Age bookstore called the Bodhi Tree in Los Angeles, and they sold all of the kind of what they called New Age music, you know, music by me, Kevin Braheny. I'm sure Steve Roach had some music in there too.
Yeah.
And other people. Deuter had music in there. And,
I see, yeah.
And so we didn't know it, but just so at any rate, the music was available to purchase at that time. So we got together with this friend of Susan's who had loaned us the money, and he said, you know, I have to tell you this story. He said, I got back from this trip, and my friends asked me if I wanted to go to Disneyland with them. And I said, yeah, sure.
Okay.
This was 1978, something like that.
Yeah.
And he said, sure, you know, and he said, but I want to take a psychedelic when we go there.
Okay.
So
right.
he took some LSD, and they went to Disneyland.
Okay.
And he had a terrible time.
Okay.
He had what they call a bad trip, is
see.
the way they talk about it.
Yeah.
And so his friends took him out of Disneyland and took them back to their house. And they put this album on to help him come back from his bad trip.
Yeah.
And when he came back and he was you know, back again, he said, that was incredible music. What was that? And they held up the album, and it was Ancient Leaves. So the way that went full circle, from him loaning us the album to going on a trip and then having this bad trip and then coming back and listening to music which helped him come back from this terrible experience he was having, and he didn't even know that he was listening to the music that he'd loaned us the money for.
Yeah.
So that's, you know, just a little story along the way.
It's a wonderful story, I think.
So, you know, I had the Mini Moog available to use at Continuum, and then as Kevin began to become more and more of a presence at Continuum, then I was able to work with the Serge. And whereas, you know, the Mini Moog, you just go up and, you know, you create your monophonic sound with your 3 oscillators and your filter and, you know, envelope generators. With the Serge, I mean, you know, I would look at it and go, wow, you know, where are the oscillators, you know? Where are the filters? Because nothing's really labeled on the Serge. And Kevin had built the Serge in this shape that was kind of like looking into an egg. So you had you had things really close to you, and then you kind of reach in a little bit, and you have things a little farther away, and then you could reach up, and there were things up above you. And he had created the Tonto studio for Malcolm Cecil, where Stevie Wonder's music was recorded, synthesizer parts were recorded, things like that. So he was designing, you know, he was not only this master at modular synthesizer, but he was actually designing them, making them, designing enclosures for them. So he introduced me to it, and then I had to get familiar with it, and because he was using it and I was using it, it was so generous of him to spend the time with me and to allow me to use it. But I slowly got into it, and then I would take like 3 or 4 hours just to create different patches on it and experiment a lot. And there was like Kevin told me, he said, you know, you have to learn how to make your worst mistakes some of your best sounds. Or interesting sounds. So I approached it kind of from that perspective, and then the Mini Moog kind of faded into the background at that point. It was not something I was so interested in, even though it had been, you know, seminal in my first introduction to synthesizers and electronic music. And that's how I learned, you know, with the Mini Moog, what does an oscillator do? What does a filter do?
Yeah.
What does an LFO do? You know, all of the kind of the basics.
Yeah, it has the very clear design where you can really see what is happening when. So it's it's maybe a good introduction, almost like for a school, a learning machine.
Yeah. And there were when I first went to Continuum, I first got there in 1975, in the winter of 1975. I was not playing for the classes. I was just taking the meditation work with Emily. And Gary, who I had met in Tucson, was playing, and Fred Stofflet, who was a percussionist, amazing percussionist, he was performing. And Don Preston from the Mothers of Invention, he was performing.
Yes. Yeah.
And Don had a big Moog, like Model 15, I think it was called, you know, that looked like a big Serge, basically. Like Robert Rich has got a big system like that.
Yeah.
I don't think it's a Moog system, it's made by one of the other companies, but it looks like a huge old Moog system.
Yeah.
And so I got to know Don Preston, and and I actually got to go. He had a band after the Mothers of Invention with, oh boy, have a brain moment here. Frank Zappa.
Okay.
He had a band called the Ogomoto Band, and I was able to. He asked me if I would record them at some performances they did. So I got some introduction to the big Moog system, and then after after 6 months or so, I started working with Fred Stofflet, the percussionist, and the two of us started creating music for the classes together, which was really great. So that was kind of the way I slid into performing for Continuum, and then recording my music at Continuum and that sort of thing.
I just wondered, when you started to do the music for the classes, was it like, let's say, New Age or space music right from the start, or was there kind of a transition from like more rock or pop or jazz idiom slowly to the New Age idiom, to the ambient sound? Or
good question.
Yeah.
No, there was no such thing as New Age music at that point. Nobody had named it New Age music. There was no such thing as space music.
Yeah.
When I was in college, I had created a piece of music that was probably as close to ambient or space music or New Age music or whatever. I mean, those are just terms we used to describe, because we don't know what the heck it is.
Yeah.
It's just, we just enjoy doing it. But at any rate, that was kind of the first time that had really come out of me, out of my musical expression. And then when I was in Tucson, before I met Emily, I was playing in a band, just a rock and roll band. I was playing as a guitar player, 6 nights a week, from like 8 o'clock at night till 1 o'clock in the morning. And going back to my house where I had this, I didn't have a synthesizer, but I had my guitar through echoplexes and little spring reverb units and things, and I would create this strange kind of music, which slowly evolved into what I do today.
Yeah.
And Continuum, the music that I would create for those classes, was kind of a synthesis of what I had been doing earlier. If you think of, Gary making music with the Mini Moog over these tape drones, it was a lot like that. It evolved into using the Mini Moog with tape drones. TAC 3340. Sometimes we'd have a couple of cassette recorders plugged into the little TAC Model 5, so that I could go from this kind of tape background to a different tape background and play over them. And then I used my voice a lot at that time. And I played other instruments, flutes and different things also over the top.
Yeah.
So it wasn't just the synthesizer, it was a lot of different kinds of things. And then when I went into Ancient Leaves, you know, I don't know about Ancient Leaves being like, is it New Age? Is it space music? Is it, you know, what kind of music? I mean, if you have to put a label on it, what kind of music? Because at that time there were no labels.
There were
Michael.
no labels, no.
Nobody had figured.
Yeah.
You know, the labels kind of come as as a marketing tool.
Of course.
Like we created the title New Age Music so that there would be a bin at Tower Records in Los Angeles, where Stephen Halpern and myself and Steve Roach and Georgia Kelly and you know, different composers of that time who were doing this alternative, whatever you would call it, music. We needed some way to put it into a record store so that if somebody heard the music on, you know, KPFA, KPFB, one of the crazy radio stations that would play the music, or they heard it in a meditation class or a yoga class or whatever, there was a place they could go, and they could go into one bin, and that's where all our music would be. Deuter was there, you know. So it's like the title New Age Music kind of was created so that people would have a place they could go to buy our music, whatever kind of music it was.
Yeah.
And the space music, which, you know, speaking of it as space music, that title kind of came later than that. And it really had to do with not outer space music, although a lot of people listen to my music and go, it's like the stars in space. Yeah. But it's really about creating a context for inner space.
I see.
It's like most music that we listen to is genre-oriented, whether it's here in the United States, it's like country western, or it's different, like 80s, 70s rock, 80s rock, 90s rock. Now you've got rap and EDM and all of the subdivisions of EDM, and you've got jazz and you've got classical. But those are all what we call genres. Whereas the music that we were creating didn't really have a genre. That's why it got all put in the New Age bin. But we were, you know, space music has always been about the inner space for me, and I think for most of the other space people who consider the music they create as space music. It's about inner space because it creates in the listener, it's like a space of inner exploration that's not tied into the world, the structured world which we live in from day to day. It creates a space for us to experience what it might be to be a human being that's not based on what's going on in the outer world, which we think, most of us think is totally crazy. It's insane, you know. So it gives us a space to explore what it might mean to be, you know, to discover other parts of ourselves that we don't have the space normally in our day-to-day lives to explore. And a lot of that is done with eyes closed. I mean, for me, one of the most profound pieces of space music, and I know this is the same for millions or thousands or whatever people, would be Pink Floyd's piece, Metal, from the Metal album called Echoes. Do you know this piece?
Yes, of course, I love it.
So, you know, as I was developing my music, I would lie on the floor with headphones and I would listen to Echoes over and over and over again.
Of course, yes.
It like it went into my...
Actually.
I
mean, I still do it today. Not lying on the floor, actually, but I play it a lot still these days. And I was thinking about Pink Floyd maybe being an early influence, because they even in the before Echoes, they had these long jams with that were very sound collage, and I think they were an influence to many later. I think also what later was called Berlin School. They where like Tangerine Dream and Klaus Schulze, they listened to Pink Floyd too and took inspiration from that.
Yeah.
And I think there are some examples, like on the other Pink Floyd album, is it On the Run? That's a pure synthesizer sequencer track, basically. We have these fast sequences, and so when Pink Floyd did it, or Yes, maybe, do you know, are you familiar with the music by Yes?
Oh yeah.
Close to the Edge.
Yeah.
The introduction to Close to the Edge, I think it's 2 minutes. You also hear some nature sounds and you hear synths, and it's basically, it's ambient music, or we would call it. But there it was just the introduction for like a prog rock thing. And I think what happened was that some people realized the potential of these short interludes or short inventions, and maybe said, okay, what will happen when we do this thing but 2 hours long? You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. That was what was wonderful about Echoes, is that it wasn't just a short interlude. It was like, okay, here's 25 minutes of that space.
You know?
You know, just thinking about that, like that call, like with Echoes, it's like this invitation into this inner world. You know, I think when electronic music, it's like a lot of people talk about Wendy Carlos, Walter Carlos, Wendy Carlos, and you know, switched on Bach, and then oh boy, that album that she did with the microtonal music that was Balinese and Javanese.
Yes, it's.
I can't think of the name of that, but that was
something with seasonings. Is it Sonic Seasonings, maybe?
No, it was after Sonic Seasonings.
Beauty and the
Beast. At any rate, I think about Emerson, Lake and Palmer. And Lucky Man. And the sound that he did with the Moog. Was like bleed through from another dimension. I mean, it was so different from electric guitar, bass, and drums, or any orchestral instrument that you'd ever heard. To hear the lead he did in Lucky Man.
Right.